I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I say, is there some way that you can pay us a little bit, you know, or you're going to sell this to some magazines and that kind of stuff?
No, this is KNXT news. It's not going to be sold. Do you have the money to rebuild if you...
Oh, not unless I sold the other end of the ranch.
How many acres are involved total that you own?
Oh, about 28.
20 acres total?
Yeah.
Would you like to rebuild if you had the chance?
Well, all I'm saying about it is mine.
Well, I'm not a small red worker, and it fits me to a T. I'm a small red worker, and it fits me to a T. If you want some family conversation, come on and smoke a bowl with me. Take a tour with me now, down the Santa Susana Pass. I got lots of family knowledge, and I'm stoned off my ass. I'm a small ranch worker, and it fits me to a T. If you want some family conversation, come on and smoke a bowl with me.
They didn't like the film.
Stoner man,
Thank you, Mr. Spahn, very much. And I agree with you for the loss of your place. I know both of us do.
Hey everyone, this is Stoner Van Houten here. It is February 28th, 2017. This is part 2 of the truth about George Spahn. Right there, you were just listening to a part of an interview CBS News did with George right after the fires. And I believe the fire, when Spahn Ranch burned down, I believe it was September 21st, 1971. And that interview, you can go into Google and type in George Spahn interview on Google, or excuse me, on YouTube, and that interview will come up. CBS News interviewing him. He's sitting in a truck, and they come up to him and they talk to him about stuff. And you can, and as you hear in that video, George is asking them if they have any money, you know, for the interview and everything like that, because he was very much into his money. Believe me, renting horses at the ranch was the big. That was the big selling point at that ranch. That's what everybody went to the ranch to do who lived in the local area. If you lived in Simi Valley, if you lived in Chatsworth, that's where you went to go horseback riding, was the ranch. And they were pulling in about $1,000 bucks, a little over $1,000 a week. And in 1969, hey, in 1968 or in the late 60s, that's a lot of money you're pulling in a week. So that was George, and that's really, you know, and you can hear in that interview he was thinking about maybe possibly rebuilding. He wasn't really sure, and then as we all know, he never did, and he ended up selling the ranch to Frank Ritz. But anyway, so this is part 2, everyone, of the truth about George Spahn. I want to pick up from where we left off of part 1. If you're just watching for the first time, hey, go back to part 1 and watch it, and you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm going to read some things and talk about some stuff about George. The main purpose of this video is to tell you stuff about George Spahn and to separate him from the events of what happened, which is, well, is technically impossible because he'll always be tied to the events of what happened because of, anytime you say Charles Manson, you say Spahn Ranch, I mean, just because the Manson family lived there, so technically he'll always be associated with it. But my point about this video is that the Spahn family, who I'm in touch with and got a hold of and everything, they would like their name to be disassociated as far as anything that went wrong with the killing of those 7 people. George had nothing to do with it. George was not a member of the Manson family. So I don't know what people believe. I mean, the media has done a great job in the last 48 years of just manipulating the situation and making us believe certain things that just are not true. So you have to take everything you hear with a grain of salt. And that's what I'm basically doing here, is I'm just filtering out all the bullshit about George and the way he was, and I'm letting people know he was a kind, great, blind man. Kind of like your grandfather. Anyone that you saw them, if you have a grandfather, you go there, you take care of them and stuff like that, you love them and everything like that. That's what George Spahn was. He really was a great, great man. Now, he may have just liked his money too much, but who doesn't like money? Come on. It's like, so look, he was a businessman. He was a rancher. He was a cowboy. He knew William S. Hart, the silent movie star. As a matter of fact, George Spahn bought, let's just recap really quickly, George Spahn bought the ranch from William S. Hart in 1948. It was the Hart Ranch then. Then Mr. Hart sold it to George Spahn and became Spahn Ranch. So from 1948 all the way up until, until 1971, it was Spahn Ranch. And then September 21st, I believe, 1971, that's when it's burned down. And there's video of that too on YouTube too. Also, the George Hendrickson film has footage of the ranch after it had burned down. So if you could check out a movie called Manson, a documentary that Robert Hendrickson did. It's called Manson. And there's also another one called Inside the Manson Gang by Robert Hendrickson. Check it out. Really, the best thing about that movie is that the footage is all real. That really is Spahn Ranch. You can see a lot of footage. I mean, the buildings, everything, that Santa Susana Pass. I really recommend that movie strictly just for the footage on there. But they show a lot of footage after the fire. So Spahn, obviously, in that interview that you heard, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. Excuse me. The second video I did that. So, and he ended up selling the ranch to Frank Ritz, and Frank Ritz owned the ranch for a very long time. Up until, probably like, I don't know, from the 70s all the way up until 98, until when Frank Ritz died. If you remember in the El Nino storm, it washed out the bridge that was at Spahn Ranch, which Frank put in and to get to the house. And it got washed away in the El Nino storm of 98. He left the gate open, didn't realize, he went out with his wife and some friends, a friend, and when they came back, the gate was open, it was raining, they didn't want to get out, but they didn't know that the bridge was washed away, and they drove right over the side. The two people in the car, his wife and the friend, they lived, and Frank apparently died, possibly even drowned due to the water level, and not so much because of the crash. And that's the last person that we know of who passed away at Spahn Ranch. After that, the state got a hold of it, broke it up into like 22 lots, tried to sell it. They sold a couple lots. They sold Frank Ritz's house. They sold what was once at one time Devil's Canyon. That was all sold, and now the Church of Rocky Peak is there now. And then they also bought some property a little further up Santa Susana Pass. It's a softball field, and there's a house there. So they bought like 3 lots, and the church being the biggest lot across the street, across Santa Susana Pass. Excuse me. But where the buildings are, where the Life magazine cave is, where the Charles Manson rock is, where the Corvair is in the back, you can't go, that's all like state property, but you just can't go to where Frank Ritz's house is, and you can't go on the famous hillside that you see in all the pictures of Spahn Ranch. You can't go on that hillside, you can't go on the bridge, and there's a road up there, and there's signs that say private property. But if you want to walk where the buildings were, that's no problem. If you want to, like I said, see the Manson rock and the Life magazine cave, and that's the number one thing everybody always wants to see is the Life magazine cave. Go down there, take a photo, and then they want to get the hell out of there. I don't know why. It's actually very beautiful down there. You can hang out there. It's a state park now, owned by the state of California. That part is completely open to the public. So go check it out. It's great. The state does tours. I recommend taking their tours. They do a Spahn Ranch tour. It's actually, I'm not going to lie, but there's no other way to explain the state's Spahn Ranch tour except for it's absolutely horrible, except for the hike itself is beautiful. The stuff they teach you about the Chumash Indians, the trees, and the environment is wonderful, and they do a great job of that, and the rangers there do a tremendous job of that, and they should just kind of stick to that. But as far as all their information about Spahn Ranch and the Manson family and stuff like that, that's all wrong. The movie stuff they got right, as far as what movies were there. And let me just read something to you really quick about movies. The ranch took its name from a dairy farmer named George Spahn, who purchased the property. Who purchased the property in 1948. This is what happened when you get high before you do film. Who purchased the property from silent film star William S. Hart, who owned the ranch prior to Spahn. Many Western-themed movies and television shows were filmed on the ranch, including Duel in the Sun in 1946, and television episodes of The Lone Ranger, Bonanza, Zorro. It was also the filming location for B movies like The Creeping Terror, the Ramrodder, and The Female Bunch were all filmed there. All these like soft porn B movies were filmed there. I'm not sure what the very last movie, but I think the Ramrodder, which is just a terrible movie, but and Bobby Beausoleil is in it, and Catherine Gypsy Sher, they're both in it. I think that might have been one of the last films, if not the last film. I'd have to look that up, but you guys can just Google that. and one of the last films ever filmed there. Now I know like certain like rap bands have gone down there, rap acts and certain musical groups have gone to Spahn Ranch and made videos at the ranch. Whether or not they had a permit, I don't know. There was a rap act, oh man, La Coca Nostra or something like that. I think it was. They went down there and did a video about Ruth Ann Morehouse, Oshie, and they did. So I forgot the name of the song, but they did a good video about that, and you can look that up on YouTube too. But people do like their own filming there and stuff like that, and take drones down there and fly them around, and, you know, and it's whatever. But like I said, it's a state park now, and that's what it's become. So getting back to George here. George was born February 11th, 1889, and he died September 22nd, 1974. Unfortunately, his name is associated with a grisly set of murders due to the tolerance of the Manson group's stay on the property. George lived 5 years after the murders. He was married to a woman named Martha Greenholz, and he lived in North Hollywood. He eventually was admitted to the Sherwood Convalescent Hospital in Van Nuys, where he died on September 22nd, 1974, at the age of 85. He was buried, or he is buried, he's buried at Eternal Valley Memorial Park. Now, the ranch burned down in 71, and since then, there have been other fires at the ranch. I believe the last fire there, I think, was 2005, 2006. That was the last time an actual fire went through there. And it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of cool when a fire does go through there, because then it actually takes all the debris away, and then you can really see the ranch for what it is. And I've seen it a couple times like that. Well, yeah, after it burned down, and as it started growing back a little bit. But it's actually, now it's like fully overgrown, and the trails are all just packed, and there's a lot of poison oak and shit there. But anyway, getting back to Spahn. So, with that, this video is to let you know that a lot of stuff that you've learned about George Spahn is probably absolutely 100% false. And let me just talk about the Manson family staying with George. Everything you think you may know about him and their relationship with the Manson family is probably absolutely 100% false. And I know it is, because the stories that you may have heard about George and this individual here, Lynette Fromme, those are false. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, shit, Stoner, how the fuck do you know? You're sitting there smoking pot and doing nothing. You know, how the fuck do you know this? Look, I'm not just bringing you information just because out of my ass, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, just because I want to be ridiculed by all my haters out there. Hey, I'm doing something and I have no idea what I'm talking about. No, I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to this certain subject. Now let me just explain something to you. When it comes to Spahn Ranch, I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about, because I'm just talking about Spahn Ranch. Do you understand? Just Spahn Ranch. Just that place itself. The movies, the stuntmen, yes, the Manson family, yes, George Spahn, and yes, his family. That's what I know. So as far as anything else, I'm not talking about the case. I can't solve the case. I don't know what happened. All I know is, I don't know. Well, all I know is my own opinion. Just like you have, everybody has their own opinion on what they think happened, and that's great. And I'll leave that to everybody else who wants to work on the case. That's great. My thing is Spahn Ranch, and I take care of it now. And picking up trash, and I clean trails, and I do a lot of good there. And I don't see anything wrong with keeping a state park clean and picking up trash. Wouldn't you want that too in any park that you lived in, where you don't pick up trash, where you just live dirty? Is that what it is? So I pick up the trash. I clean graffiti, because I don't like graffiti in my neighborhood, in my community. You like it in yours? Because I can bring some over from the ranch and we can stick it in your neighborhood, you know, on your walls in your community. That'd be great. You know, I don't like it, so I spend time getting rid of graffiti, picking up trash, cleaning up trails, and taking care of something. Regardless of what you think may or may not have happened there, it's still a state park. It was a ranch where movies were made. You understand that? Because of what happened one time in August of '69, that's all people remember, when really there's like 75 years of history or whatever of Spahn Ranch, of movies, of stuntman, and stuff that went on there. There's a lot of good that went on there by the late 50s and in the 60s. That's when Spahn Ranch was dilapidated. That's when Spahn Ranch was on its way out. Like I said in video 1, it was a matchstick away, and it literally, it was, and that's what happened. And it went down, and that fire wasn't a conspiracy or anything like that. It was a real fire that happened to go through there. Nobody burned Spahn Ranch down. There's no conspiracy theory about, nobody burned it down. It was an actual accident. It was an actual fire that went through the fucking, the canyon there in Simi Valley and came right through and burned it down. Same thing that happened in 2005. But that's what I focus on. So, if you want to, you know, if you want to talk about the case, I don't really have, you know, much an opinion on the case. I don't know what really happened. You know, I don't believe helter skelter. Yes, I don't believe that. Okay, so I don't believe that. So, but that's, I don't know. I know probably about as much as you know. You're watching. Maybe actually a lot of you out there that are watching know way more and a lot about that than I do, and that's true. But I'm Spahn Ranch, and I know more about Spahn Ranch than you do, and I know more about little things about that place because I go there and I take care of it, and I'm there all the time. If you're not there doing these things, you can't know this like I do. And I talk to family members. These family members got a hold of me. I did not get a hold of them. I don't try to track people down. I'm not sitting there playing detective trying to track people down. Man, you know how to get my email off my YouTube, off my Facebook, whatever. You can get my fucking email if you want to get a hold of me, okay? And people do. And yes, I have to check them out because I think a lot of it's bullshit. And then when it's real, I'm like, holy crap. And it really is. So I'm going to tell you something right now about George Spahn. He was the absolute kindest, gentlest man who did like and enjoy having the Manson family girls there, yes. But nothing happened like what you're thinking. And this is all going to be proven, not right now, but it's coming up. Maybe 2018, but it's coming up. And we're going to show you this, and you're going to be like, well, Stoner, how do you know this? I'm going to show you this. We have proof. Well, I do. Not we. Me. I'm going to bring this to you. Small, little facts that have nothing to do with the case. This is the minute. This really has not. It's really nothing. But it is something. Because think about this. You've been lied to for 48 years, even on the smallest scale from this case, to how you think she got her name. You've been lied to the way George treated the girls there. You've been lied to. Now I know those two things are irrelevant to the case, and you're right. They are. They have nothing to do with the case. Who cares how Squeaky got her name on this and that and blah blah blah. You're right, but I'm going to tell you the truth about it because to this day, every detail about this case, they've lied to you. Even the tiniest little facts on how an individual gets a name. So from how someone gets a name to all the way to how someone's murdered, I believe that there's just been tons and tons of lies, and then everybody just picks and chooses where you want to start in this case. And honestly, I'm starting and I'm staying with the one thing that I know, and the only thing that I know, and that is a state park that was once called Spahn Ranch. I know Spahn Ranch. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Trust me. If you don't like it, then you know what? Comment in the box below, and there you go, and I'll challenge you on it, and you'll be wrong. Because, believe me, I know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to this. And I know what I'm talking about when it comes to George Spahn and the family and certain things like that. I've investigated the information. I see the way these other groups work, and I know why some people, you give out false information and other people call you on it, and it looks stupid and blah, 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 blah. So, right, I'm seeing what everybody does, and I'm knowing, okay, this is, but when you do something like this, you better have your information. You better know what the fuck you're talking about, otherwise you look stupid. So trust me, all this is going to come out, and it's going to be a little bit of a shocker, I guess. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything except for small little things, man. How someone gets a name, how an old man treats young girls at the ranch, small stuff like that you have been lied to about. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. 90% of the stuff on the internet about the Manson family is false. Excuse me. About 90% of the stuff about the Manson family on the internet is false, and then the 10% is true, and then but all that 10% is yes, they did live at Spahn Ranch. Hey, that's true. So let's think about this. The media got this right. They lived at Spahn Ranch. That's right. They lived at Barker Ranch. Okay, yeah, they got two things right. So they lived at two ranches, and they lived at a couple other places. And so yeah, okay, good. You got some addresses right. Good. Okay, now everybody knows that's probably watching this that this case is so big, it's gigantic. It's so. Wow, and everybody picks their point of where they want to be in this whole thing, and all I want to be is the Spahn Ranch worker, the guardian of the ranch, and that's what I do. I pick up trash and I clean up graffiti in a state park. It's 2017, people. It's a state park. It will always be a state park. It will never be Spahn Ranch ever again. It will never have that, I guess, for you people out there watching, it will never have that vibe that you think may be there now that exists. That's why I can't go there and I can't touch a rock there and I can't take anything out of there because if I bring it in my home, oh my God, I'm going to have some bad mojo in my home. And oh my God, and yikes. But unfortunately, a lot of you people out there believe that stuff and whatever, man. But yeah, look. But if you're into jogging and like riding your bike and walking your dog, and just getting out and getting some exercise and some sun on your face from Southern California because you've been living somewhere where they don't fucking have the sun, hey, get out and take one of my hikes. I do Spahn Ranch tours of the area. They're actually coming up this week, very, very soon, and they start in March, and tomorrow is the first day of March, and I'm doing some Spahn Ranch tours. Very, 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 very soon. So, so why don't you get out and come out, look me up, and we can spend the day at the ranch, and I can teach you some stuff. And so this video, let me just make this clear. This is part 2 of the George Spahn, the truth about George Spahn, which is he wasn't the sick, perverted guy who liked little girls and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. But then again, if you're 80 years old, wouldn't you like a young girl? Let's think about this. What 80-year-old guy do we know that has a young girl come visit him at the waiting room, at the visiting room at Corcoran? He's 80-something years old, and she's 28. Let's think, who was that? Yeah, you're right. It's Afton Burton, and she's named Star. And when she would go and visit her friend, when she does, and it's good when she goes and visits her friend, you know, in the visiting room there at Corcoran and sits on the old man's lap. Hey man, he's 80. You know, look, any 80-year-old guy is going to be happy, or 70-year-old guy is going to be happy. A young girl sitting on his lap, so that's a gimme. So but it's not a perversion thing. Look, Manson and Starr aren't going to do anything in the visiting room. The tables are so low. I don't know if you've ever been in the visiting room at Corcoran. I actually have. Not to visit Manson. I was actually an inmate, but not at New Corcoran. So don't get all like he was in old Corcoran. I was in New Corcoran where they had the air conditioning. But it's the tables are low and you can't do any hanky-panky, no little finger banging or anything like that. There's none of that stuff going on. But yes, it would be anyone that comes to visit, you're happy. So look, so if the Manson family never stayed at Spahn Ranch, the George would just be at his house there, blind guy, only being looked at by the family, who probably would show up, you know, once a week. You know, Chad Sandifer would come to visit his grandpa, and then they would come and check on him, make sure that, you know, he, like I said, he's had his food, changed his diaper, change his clothes. I didn't mean that. Had some food, you know, got a shower, changed his clothes, and stuff like that. But since Lynette Fromey was there, she was taking care of him and making sure he was doing that stuff. And Chad Sandifer, when he'd come visit his grandpa, he remembers, you know, Lynette, and they'd have, like I said, lemonade together on the porch, and they'd hang out and stuff like that. And he thought she was very nice to him, and she was. She treated him like her own grandpa, you know. And that's the way it was. That's all it was. This is a kind, gentle man who had no clue, absolutely no clue what was going on at all. Believe me, absolutely no clue whatsoever. So with that said, you know, so in the next, I guess, year, you'll probably see more evidence of this, of what I'm talking about. So this is Stoner Van Houten here. I'm going to leave you with the actually, I'm going to leave you with some music and stuff like that. But this is the video about, what am I talking about? I'm talking about George Spahn. This is the video, the truth about George Spahn. This is what happens when you get high, man. I'm smoking some really good stuff. So, but this is the way my videos are. And you know this. I don't really care what you think. I don't do takes. I don't edit my videos. It's very raw. I do one take. I'm a one-take wonder. And this is what you get, and I really don't give a fuck what you think. So this is Stoner Van Houten here, telling you the truth about George Spahn. He was a gentle, kind, old man. He wasn't a sick pervert who just did what you think he did, because you've been lied to for 48 years. So take care, everybody, and that truth will really come out, believe me. So if you want to try to call me on it or debunk me, you won't be able to, because I got everything I need to prove it. So take care.
Well, I'm not a Spahn Ranch worker, and it fits me to a T. I'm not a Spahn Ranch worker, and it fits me to a T. If you want some family conversation, come on and smoke a bowl with me. Take a tour with me now down the Santa Susana path. I got lots of family knowledge, and I'm stoned off my ass. I'm a Spahn Ranch worker, and it fits me to a T. If you want some family conversation, come on and smoke a bowl with me. Stoner